Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning in to the Disgruntled Millennial portion of the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. I am Brett Segal, the Disgruntled Millennial. You can get me at Shack General. That's Shack General. On Twitter, you could also get me on Facebook. We got a lot of stuff going on there. We got the latest in news. We got the latest in culture. We're one of those sites that we don't only post right-wing sites. We post left-wing sites too, because nothing really explains the evil of leftism like the leftists themselves. We are here today with Sean Smith. We have been talking a lot about relationships. We've been talking about a lot about how men can navigate through relationships in the modern day. In the modern day, men sort of get hosed. Men get the shaft by relationships. And Sean Smith sees who we're going to pick, who men pick as a mate, as being one of the utmost important things that a man can do. And it should really you should really put a lot of thought into who it is that you are going to be with. And noticing the negative qualities early is sort of something that Sean Smith has said that is one of the important things to do, because men can save themselves bitter, nasty, contentious divorces by just simply making good decisions early on in a relationship. Let's talk a little bit more with Sean Smith about that.
Well, it's important to figure them out early on, because the cost of choosing poorly for men it can be devastating. I'll give you a quick example. A guy recently who married the wrong woman, and he had a fairly high-paying job. They had a couple of kids, and when they got divorced, it was a contentious divorce, because the person that you divorce is never the person that you marry. You find out all kinds of interesting things about the person you're divorcing. Now, I'm not divorced, but I hear this from divorce attorneys and people who've gone through it. And what happened with this guy was that essentially she got child custody or primary custody because he worked all the time and she didn't. And after the divorce, she decided to leave the state, take the kids with her. He had no legal recourse over that because she was a primary custodian, and he couldn't really follow her because he needed this high-paying job to pay for his children and his ex-wife, who are now in another state. That's why it's important to do the work at the front end, so that you don't have that terrible day in family court at the back end. And I forgot the rest of your question because I got on that soapbox.
It's okay. It's we can expand on that, because it is kind of a shoddy deal when you consider everything in family court and the fact that, there's so much more access these days to, for both men and for women. But as you stated, men end up getting the shaft. And, one of the things you also mentioned in your book is that men are constantly having to earn their manhood, and women sort of just show up to the party and, they're women. So in that sort of way, it can lead men down a very, very, very dark road if he gives all of his resources, his time, his energy to this one relationship that turns out to just be a catastrophic disaster. I think it adds some gravitas to the book and makes it all that more important for us to get on this quick.
And on the flip side of that, if I could make a quick point here, I do want to point out that a good marriage, a good partnership, is the best thing that can happen to a guy. There's a lot of research. We live longer, we're happier, we're healthier, we make more money, we have more sex. Life is just better when we have that good one. And so that's why men really need that dichotomy, is really why men need to approach this as a risk management question, because it's an investment that can pay off immeasurably, or it can destroy you.
Right. And having the conversation with a female might not, that conversation, like, all right, let's take this relationship and dissect it and make it in, it's like, that's not like a comfortable conversation for most people to have, much less most women, I think, to have. How getting past that without trying to make the other person seem like a bad person, or without trying to demonize the other person, might be, it might be something that people who are already in these relationships could look at, but nipping it in the bud ahead of time is sort of where you're going with the book. So let's talk a little bit about some negative qualities of women that we need to just avoid. Like what is it that, and of course there could be men could also embody these qualities, but how do you guide men in the way of negative qualities of women, qualities we should stay away from?
Well, negative qualities, oftentimes just the flip side of the good qualities that we've talked about, good communication versus really poor communication. But then there's some overriding stuff that really just doesn't make for a very good partner on either end. And things like substance abuse that a person's unwilling to get treatment for. Now, having said that, let me say that somebody who goes through substance abuse recovery can make a better partner than somebody who doesn't, because they've developed just a ton of skills like insight and introspection and accountability and so forth that other people may not have occasion to go out and develop. But that person who's unwilling to get it treated is not going to work. It's going to destroy the relationship. And things like personality disorders, again, that a person refuses to get treated. You've mentioned personality disorders a couple of times. You want to delve into that a bit?
To me, this is probably the most fascinating part of the book, because I've seen it. I think I've seen it. I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't diagnose this, but if I were a betting man and you stuck a gun to my head, I would say that I've definitely come in to some of these situations. So let's talk about borderline personality disorder and the kind of how that manifests in a relationship if one of the person has that.
Well, that particular disorder is diagnosed more so in women, and the numbers are all over the place because there's different ways of measuring it. But a safe estimate is that somewhere around 5 to 7% of the population has some kind of personality disorder at some point in their life, and people tend to overcome them with age, just as they develop more coping skills. But let's talk about what a personality disorder is. It's basically a dysregulation of emotion and an inability to manage relationships in any kind of productive way. And borderline personality disorder is one that's diagnosed more often in women, whether that's because of diagnostic bias or reality. It's up for debate, but regardless, it does tend to show up more in women. And men need to be very mindful of it, because dating somebody with a personality disorder on that end of the spectrum, like borderline or narcissism or psychopathy, it can feel amazing in the beginning because you're idealized and this person is charismatic and they're an animal in the bedroom and they're just, it feels great. And it's really easy to get drawn into that. What happens with personality disorders is that relationships start off great and then they fall apart. And that's the pattern to look for. And one of the things to look for in a woman is have her relationships all just ended in a flaming wreck, professional and personal. But being really mindful of like who she's surrounding herself with and what those relationships look like and how she conceptualizes other people. Are they good and bad? Good and evil, or does she see the world in shades of gray? And can she see that she can be angry at somebody and still love them?
All right, we got a hard break coming up. We're on with Sean Smith. We'll be right back.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road, and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.